Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to break down one of the most fundamental and, let's be honest, often misunderstood forces that shapes our world and our lives: power.
For centuries, people have been obsessed with figuring out how power really works. You've got classic thinkers like Machiavelli who basically laid it all out as a game of cold, hard calculation.
And believe me, that fascination has not gone away. I mean, you see them everywhere, right? Books promising to unlock the secrets of influence and strategy. It just goes to show you, this quest to understand and, well, use power, it's not going anywhere.
But what is power really? Is it just something for kings and presidents? Or is it at play in your office, in your family, even in your friendships? All right, let's really get into this.
To really get our heads around the big picture, we've got to start small. We're going to look at those invisible currents of influence that are flowing between us all the time, in literally every conversation we have.
And for that, we're going to travel back to 1959. That's when two social psychologists, John French and Bertram Raven, came up with this amazing framework that, honestly, is still the best way to understand how power works between people.
And what they came up with is just brilliant in its simplicity. They basically identified 6 fundamental types or bases of power. You can think of them like a personal toolkit for influence that every single one of us has access to, whether we realize it or not. So let's break them down.
First up, you've got coercive power. This is the classic stick approach, right? It's power that comes from the threat of punishment, whether that's physical, financial, or even social. It might get you what you want in the short term, sure, but it almost never inspires real loyalty. And on the flip side of that, of course, is reward power. This is the carrot. It's the power you have when you can give somebody something they value, a bonus, a good grade, or even just a compliment. It's influence built on positive reinforcement, and it tends to work a whole lot better.
Then there's legitimate power. Now, this one isn't really about you as a person, it's about the title you hold. A manager, a police officer, their power comes from a position that we as a society have all kind of agreed to respect.
Referent power is completely different. This one is all personal. It's the influence you have just because people like you, they trust you, they admire you. It's the power of a role model. People follow you because they want to, not because some rule says they have to.
Next up is expert power. This one's pretty straightforward. It comes from what you know and what you can do. You listen to a doctor or a mechanic because you believe they have skills and knowledge that you don't. It's all about credibility.
And finally, we have informational power. This is all about controlling access to information that other people need or want. And in our world today, being the gatekeeper of knowledge can be one of the most powerful positions to be in.
So when you look at it that way, it's pretty clear we're all swimming in these currents of power every single day. But that's just the micro level, between people. What happens when we zoom out and look at the whole of society? So how do all these little interactions scale up? How is power really organized across an entire society? Who is actually calling the shots?
Well, when you ask sociologists that question, you basically get 2 completely different answers. On one side, you've got pluralism, which sees power as scattered all over the place. And on the other, you've got elite theory, which says, nope, it's all held by a tiny little group at the top.
So, the pluralist view sees a healthy democracy as this big, bustling marketplace. You have all these different groups, unions, corporations, activists, all fighting for their interests. And all that competition creates a natural system of checks and balances, so no single group can ever really take over.
But then you have the elite theory. And the big name here is C. Wright Mills. He basically said, yeah, that's a nice story, but it's not how the world actually works. He argued that a power elite, a tiny, interconnected group from the top of big business, the military, and the government are the ones really running the show. Their interests all line up, and they effectively form a single ruling class.
Now, you might think that's the whole debate, right? Pluralism versus elite theory? But then a philosopher named Stephen Lukes came along and said, hold on, you're both missing the most important parts. You're only looking at the surface.
See, Luke said power has 3 faces. The first one is the obvious one we all see: who wins the argument, who wins the vote. But the second face is way sneakier. It's the power to set the agenda, to decide what even gets talked about in the first place. And the third face, well, this is the real game changer. It's the most subtle and powerful of all: the ability to shape what people think and want, so they accept the system as it is without ever questioning it.
Okay, so why does any of this theory actually matter to you? Because understanding these different layers of power, from a simple conversation all the way up to the hidden structures of our society,
Well, it's the first step to seeing the world as it really is.
So let's just put this all together. The big takeaway here is that power isn't one simple thing. It's this complex, multi-layered system. On a personal level, we're all constantly using those 6 bases of influence. On the societal level, you've got this big debate between competition and control. And underneath all of that is the most effective power of all, the invisible kind that shapes the rules of the game itself.
At the end of the day, power isn't some abstract thing in a textbook. It is a living, breathing force that's at play all around us all the time. Seeing it, understanding how it works between people, how it's structured in society, and how it can hide in plain sight, that's the first step. The real question we're left with is this: now that you can see it, what will you do?